What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian MMA podcast. I am your host, and my name is John. And this week we are going to be analyzing and predicting the UFC on ESPN Plus 22 card headlined by Jan Blachowicz versus Jacare-Souza. This 12-fight card will take place in Sao Paulo, Brazil, taking place this Saturday, November 16th, 2019, with the first fight starting on the ESPN Plus app at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. It looks like 6 fights will be on the prelims, with 6 fights on the main card starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as well. All 12 fights will be aired on ESPN Plus. So with that being said, we will get right into the first fight of the evening in the women's bantamweight division. We have Tracy Cortez, who is 6-1, taking on Vanessa Melo, who is 10-6. The opening betting line for this one was Cortez, the favorite, at minus 185 to Melo at plus 145. Right now we are seeing Cortez minus 200 to Melo at plus 170. So very interesting fight for me to start the card off. I am very confident in Tracy Cortez in this fight. If you do the tape, it's all there for you. Cortez has great takedowns. She's got good top pressure. She can grapple for the full three rounds. She can take your back. She has a fast rate of takedowns she can hit. And Vanessa Melo made her UFC debut last fight against Aldana. It was not a good matchup for her, but I think honestly Cortez is an even worse matchup because at least Aldana kept the fight standing, gave Melo a chance, but Melo looked slow. She looked pretty chubby in there. She missed weight by 4 pounds, and I think she's taking this fight on short notice, maybe 3 weeks notice. So I expect Melo to miss weight again. She probably didn't have much time to work on anything since her last loss from Aldana just a few weeks ago. And I think that she'll come in here the same fighter. She won't have good takedown defense. She does not have good balance. She's been taken down in her fights before the UFC by Moraes. She got taken down, and the only way she got up from that was actually because Moraes just let her up. She decided she didn't want to grapple anymore. But Melo had no idea how to escape. She spent some time on her back, and I just think there's going to be a huge grappling differential for Tracy Cortez in this one. She's going to have the better cardio, the better takedowns, the better top game, and I really heavily favor Tracy Cortez in this fight to the point where I think she should be about a minus 400 favorite. So I think this line is off by like at least 10 to 15%, and that means we are going to be locking in the biggest bet of the year of 2019 so far on Tracy Cortez. And it sounds like a bold move. I mean, she is making her UFC debut. She's fighting a woman who should be bigger than her. Cortez, a former flyweight, but Melo is also a former flyweight. She fought all over the weight classes, 25, 35, even 45, and I don't think that she will be much bigger. I don't think that the weight will play into Melo's factor. I'm just very confident in Cortez in this one. And that's all I have to say, really. I'm confident in my girl, Tracy Cortez. She's going to get this dub. And you can check out all the final bets for me on my Bet MMA Tips page, which I will link on my Twitter. So with that being said, we're going to move to the next fight. Another fight in the women's flyweight division this time. Ariane Lipski, who is 11-5, taking on Veronica-Macedo, who is 6-3-1. The opening betting line for this one was Lipski minus 110, Macedo minus 130. Right now we are seeing a pick'em at minus 110 for both fighters. So it opened a near pick'em with a slight advantage to Macedo, and right now it sits at a dead even pick'em. So I understand why. It's a really close fight. Kind of an interesting stylistic matchup because Macedo has fought a series of grapplers her past few fights. She got matched up with Viana, subbed her off her back. She struggled with Robertson, struggled with Andrea Lee. But Macedo's real bread and butter is her striking. She comes from a taekwondo background. She's got some nice head kicks, and I think Lipski will give her the fight that she wants because Lipski comes from a Muay Thai background, different type of striking, but I think these two will strike on the feet with one another. If one of them is hitting takedowns, it will probably be Macedo because Macedo definitely has the better ground game of the two. Lipski has struggled defending takedowns, struggled getting off her back. But Lipski's fought some tough competition. I mean, 2 losses to JoJo Calderwood and Molly McCann are not bad losses at all. And I think that she still has a little bit of upside to her. And I think that if this fight stays on the feet for the entire fight and it's a straight kickboxing match, I actually favor Lipski. I think she will do the better work in the striking. She's going to do more damage in the eyes of the judges. She's going to be a little more active, probably hitting leg kicks on Macedo and landing the better punches. And if Macedo mixes in the grappling, she could very well win this one. But I think my pick is actually going to be Lipski to get her first UFC win in this one. Not a confident pick at all. It's a pick 'em for a reason. It's a total coin flip of a fight. I'm not betting either side in this one, and I would advise you not to either. I just don't think there's any value in this fight at a 50-50 price. There's no real confident lean to this fight, in my opinion, unless you saw something on tape that I didn't. But this is going to be a Lipski decision pick for me, but a no bet. The next fight in the featherweight division, we have Renan Barao, who is 34-8, taking on Douglas da Silva Andrade, who is 25-3. The opening betting line for this one was Andrade -170 to Barao +130. Right now we are seeing Andrade -240 to Barao +200. So the more action coming in on the favorite, Andrade. And at that price, is definitely the rightful side to come in. We got both guys moving up from bantamweight in this fight. Douglas da Silva Andrade, he's kind of a mini version of John Lineker. He's a little less effective, though. Barao, former champion, been around for a while. I think he's coming off of like 5 losses in a row or something absolutely insane like that. Yeah, he has lost 6 of his last 7 fights, with the only win being a win over Felipe Nover back in 2015. So he's had a really rough run. He has looked better at 45 though of the 2 weight classes. I mean, he was cutting down to 135, killing himself, and his performances looked pretty weak. He would gas out. He wouldn't be able to take punches very well, but I think we've seen better things from Barao at 45, and I think that this weight, both of them moving up in weight, definitely favors Barao, because Barao's chin and his cardio sucks at 135, and that would have been probably an easy win for Andrade. But the fact that this is at 45, Andrade wasn't a big bantamweight to begin with, and now he's going to give Barao 10 extra pounds. I think that this is not a good move for Andrade, and it actually gives Barao a kind of a winnable fight here. And Barao didn't look terrible last fight. He fought Luke Sanders. He won round 1. He honestly looked the best he has in like 5 years in round 1 versus Luke Sanders. But unfortunately, he gassed out in round 2 and got lit up with some punches and knocked out cold. But his body kick, even some right hands were landing from Barao. It shows that his technique is still there. It's just he does not have the athleticism, the cardio, or the durability to fight in the UFC anymore. And it's kind of sad that the UFC has given him another fight, because he was once one of the best fighters in the world, and it has now fallen to one of the worst fighters on the roster, to be honest. So Andrade doesn't really have a big path to victory. I mean, obviously you'd think he wants to touch the chin, outbox Barao, but he doesn't have a really diverse striking attack. He kind of unloads and reloads like Yoel Romero, where he waits and just throws big explosive combinations and then doesn't throw anything for a while. He throws the occasional kick, some leg kicks, some body kicks, but I mean, he's really primarily winging, power hooks, power overhands, and he doesn't really have a great output. So I honestly think that this is a winnable fight for Barao. I'm not going to go as far to pick him, because I think that in the striking exchanges, Andrade will just be quicker. He will be more accurate, and Barao would really have to be on this fight for him to win. He's going to have to use that body kick, use his range, and maybe try to get this fight to the floor, where he should have an advantage over Andrade and should be able to be able to avoid the power punch on the feet, which is really Barao's detriment. So it's a winnable fight for Barao, and I think at 2-1, Barao is the value side. It's definitely dog or pass at these odds, but the people who jumped in on Andrade under 2-1, I think you got a good price, and I think that Andrade does win this fight. I don't know if I would go as far to pick him to win by knockout, because I just haven't seen enough real good power striking from him. And Barao fighting at 45 should have a little bit better of a chin. So I'm going to pick Andrade by decision, but Barao could be live in this fight, very potentially. The next fight in the welterweight division, we have Warlley Alves, who is 13-3, taking on Randy Brown, who is 11-3. The opening betting line for this one was Alves, the favorite, at -180 to Brown +140. Right now we are seeing Alves -120, Brown +100. So line margins tightening up, and rightfully so. I think that the bettors coming in on Brown are definitely on the right side of this fight, and it's a close matchup. Alves could win it with the right game plan. He's going to have to attack the leg kicks. He does have good leg kicks. Brown suffers from leg kicks from time to time. Even in his last fight, the fight that he was winning pretty decisively versus Bryan Barberena, he was getting hit with some hard leg kicks. So I just think that that's like an obvious path to victory for Alves, though. Like, I think Brown is smart enough to be able to avoid that, and I think that Brown has a lot of other advantages in this fight. Like the striking, I think advantage does go to Brown. He looked really good in that fight versus Barberena. Huge improvements in his striking. It looked like he knew how to use his reach for the first time. He was throwing tons of straight punches. He was working a good jab, throwing some stabbing body kicks, and I think that we saw the best Brandy Brown we ever have last fight. Alves did pick up a nice finish over Moraes, but I mean, Moraes is an extremely low-level fighter. He had Moraes beat early, was just smashing his leg. He had no answer for the leg kicks and just got outboxed and eventually knocked out Moraes in round 3. But if you look at the real fight I'm looking at in this one is Alves' fight against James Krause not too long ago, and that was a really bad performance from Alves. He didn't have success clinching. He didn't have success going for takedowns, and then at range he started to get outboxed by Krause. He started to get lit up with straight punches, and he looked extremely frustrated. He started swinging big power punches, missing by a mile, and it looked like he kind of wilted a little bit in that round 2. Ended up getting rocked with a big power knee and getting knocked out in the second round. So I think that that's a path to victory that Brown's going to want to explore. He's going to want to look to frustrate Alves, to light him up with straight punches, to draw out those big loopy counters, and then really make Alves pay. I think Brown's going to do some real damage on the feet with his straight punches and his kicks. So Alves' path to victory in this one is going to be hitting those leg kicks, maybe doing some good work in the clinch. He really wins most of his fights in the clinch, like the Sultan Ali fight comes to mind. And if Alves can shut Brown down with the leg kicks in the clinch, he should win this decision. But I actually think that Brown will be able to avoid the clinch, will check the leg kicks, avoid being taken down, spend time on his back. Even if the fight does go to the floor, Brown is a very competent grappler, and I think that he will be able to hold his own in this fight. He was out-grappled by Belal Muhammad not too long ago, but Belal Muhammad has a great top game, great wrestling game, and I think he might even be a better grappler than Alves, or from what we've seen in the UFC at least. So I think Brown is very live in this fight. I think he should be the favorite. I think Brown should be about -150. Alves should be +130. I just think Brown has more ways to win. He has more upside, and I think he's going to actually win this fight. I don't know if I would go by TKO, but yeah, I'll go by TKO because I just think he's going to frustrate Alves. Alves is going to be hittable, and we saw Brown really have some sting behind his strikes last fight versus Barberena. He finished Barberena, who's a guy who was notoriously hard to finish, targeted the body, hit him with some knees, elbows, punches. It was a great performance, and I'm really high on Brown now, and I'm going to pick Brown to win this fight by TKO, and I got, I think, 1 unit on him at +109. Might add more as we go here, but for now, just 1 unit on Brown +109. Next fight takes place in the lightweight division. We have Francisco Trinaldo, who is 23-7, taking on Bobby Green, who is 24-9-1. The opening betting line for this one was Trinaldo the favorite at -165 to Green +125. Right now we are seeing Trinaldo -130, Green +110. So more action coming in on the underdog Green side in this one, although there is two-way action coming in on this fight because it's a really close matchup. It's probably one of the hardest matchups to pick on the card. And you got Trinaldo, who is getting up there in age. He's almost 40 years old. I don't know exactly how old he is, but the guy doesn't seem to age very much because he still looks very athletic. He has good power, good footwork. He's light on his feet. I mean, he is not aging in a very humane way at all. So I think Trinaldo is still a very good fighter. His last fight, he kind of got robbed versus Alexander Hernandez, but to be honest, he kind of did it to himself. I mean, he was in a super low output fight versus Hernandez in Hernandez's hometown. And I mean, the total strikes for that fight were like 30-20 for Trinaldo or something like that. So it shouldn't have been much of a surprise that Trinaldo got robbed in those scorecards. But as I said before, Trinaldo kind of let it happen, and he's done this before. I mean, the guy has a low output counter striking type of style, and even after losing that fight via close decision, it's not like he's going to come out here and change his style that got him to the point where he's a 23-5 fighter. I think that Trinaldo comes out and still looks to counterpunch, but he will have more abilities to counterpunch versus Green. Green has a much higher output, is much more aggressive than Hernandez, and Green will be open to counters. But man, Green's output, his activity is going to be much better than Trinaldo's, and Green is scrappy, man. He has a way of getting in really close fights. He's got great boxing, great takedowns. I mean, he's very well rounded. He's a sneaky good fighter, and I think that that's why you're seeing this line be so close, even though he's taken on the old trusty Trinaldo in Brazil, because Green could make this fight ugly. He could do the better work on the scorecards, and if Trinaldo is low output like he typically is, Green could come away and steal these scorecards in Trinaldo's home country of Brazil. But man, it's really hard. It's a really hard fight to predict outside of what I just said there. I think that Green does do the better work in these fights, or in this fight, and he will get the scorecard in this one. And we might see Trinaldo land a power strike and hurt Green on the feet like he did to Evan Dunham not too long ago. But outside of that, man, it's really hard to trust Trinaldo's output at this point in his career to win him these rounds, especially against a super active guy like Green, super aggressive. And Green likes to get in brawls, though, so he could get that chin touch. He could get knocked out, but I'm actually picking him to win this one via decision. I think he does the better work throughout the fight, steals the fight on the card. So it's a tough fight to bet at this price. I think it's dog or pass for sure. But even at this price, plus 110 for Green, it's looking like more of a pass for me. He's going to have to come in with a really good game plan himself, and he's going to have to get a little bit of luck getting the scorecards in Brazil from Trinaldo. So the pick is Green by decision, but no bet for me so far. The next fight takes place in the featherweight division. We have Ricardo Ramos, who is 13-2, taking on Eduardo-Garragori, who is 13-0. The opening betting line for this one was Ramos minus 215, Garragori plus 165. Right now we are seeing Ramos minus 290 to Garragori plus 245. So much more action coming in on the favorite Ramos this one, and rightfully so. I mean, Ramos is just the better fighter everywhere. He is moving up in weight in this one from 35 to 45, and he's not an extremely dominant fighter, but I honestly think that he's the better fighter than Garragori everywhere. I think Garragori's UFC debut versus Bandone was super sloppy. He didn't show really anything good in that fight. I think Ramos will light him up with straight punches on the feet. I think he'll probably look to hit that classic spinning elbow that Ramos likes throwing. And on the feet, or on the floor, excuse me, I think Ramos will have a big advantage. He should be able to hit takedowns. He should hit top position. And man, Garragori was taking down Bandone and stuff like that, and he looked okay doing so. But Bandone is super low level. He's already cut from the UFC. Garragori did not have great cardio in round 3. He didn't have good work in the clinch. His striking looked pretty stiff to me, honestly. He looked super hittable, keeps his chin up in the air. So I think Ramos will win this one easy. That's why you're seeing that heavy action coming on him. And even at minus 290, I think that there's some value on Ramos. A good parlay piece or something like that. Wouldn't have bet him straight up, but I think that he probably wins this fight at a 75-80% clip, and I'm picking Ramos to win this one by decision. The next fight takes place in the welterweight division. The last fight on the prelims, 7 fights on the prelims. I said 6 in the introduction, but there are 7. We got Sergio Moraes, who is 14-5-1, taking on James Krause, who is 26-7. The opening betting line for this one was Krause, the favorite, at minus 190 to Moraes plus 150. Right now we are seeing Krause minus 185, Moraes plus 160. So the line is staying about the same. And I really understand why. I mean, I think the odds are pretty accurately set in this one. I do favor Krause in this one. I think that he will win this one by decision, possibly even getting the finish, because I just rate Moraes so low as a fighter. I mean, the guy is a jiu-jitsu guy. He's got great top game, but his takedowns are no good. His striking is terrible. He can't check leg kicks. He doesn't have any boxing defense, and all he does is wing overhand rights on the feet. So he doesn't have good MMA IQ, and I'm just really unimpressed with the guy as a fighter. Meanwhile, Krause hasn't fought in 15 months, but his last win was over Alves, as I was talking about earlier. Krause also coaches MMA full-time and just kind of fights every now and then when he feels like it. When he's like, hey, you want to go down to Brazil and knock out a Brazilian guy? Yeah, sure, I'll do it. And that's what he's doing here. And I think that he will do so. I don't know if he'll knock him out, because I think that knee that he caught Alves with was kind of an anomaly. He's not really a power striker, and I think that Krause will win this one by decision, but on the feet, Krause is going to be the much better striker. He's got great straight punches that he was lighting up Alves with. I think that they'll be there to hit Moraes with too, as long as he can avoid that big power loopy punch, which he should be able to very easily. He did a great job avoiding big overhands and looping hooks versus Alves. So I think he'll do it again versus Moraes here, and I think he has the takedown defense, the get-ups, the defensive jiu-jitsu to stay off his back. The only chance I think Moraes has as winning this fight is if he gets an early takedown, he gets top position, he starts working his guard passing, maybe gets a back take somewhere along the line. But I think Moraes is sub-robust. I don't think that he lands that power punch in the feet, and I don't think he lands takedowns in all 3 rounds to win this fight on the card. So I'm picking Krause to win this one. I think he stays off his back and outstrikes Moraes on the feet and wins this one on the card. So I'm going to go with 30-27. Krause is the pick. Moving on to the main card in the middleweight division, we got Marcus Perez, who is 11-2, taking on Wellington-Turman, who is 15-3. The opening betting line for this one was Perez, the -260 favorite, to Turman at +180. Right now we are seeing Perez -115 to Turman at -105. So a ton of action coming in on Wellington-Turman, and I'm kind of surprised by it. I more so agree with where the opening line was set, where as much more of a favorite for Perez. I think Perez is better everywhere. I think he's got the better striking of the two. He seems to have a little more power behind his punches. He's got a great southpaw left body kick that I think is going to give Turman some problems. And on the ground, I think there's no question that Perez is the better grappler. I mean, he's looked better positionally. He's tapped out the better guys. He's got some nice submission finishes, while Turman does have some submissions on his record, but those were not in the UFC. His one and only UFC fight versus Roberson, I think, is the only fight that you need to watch to figure out who's going to win this one. I mean, versus Turman got an early takedown versus Roberson. He got reversed quickly after and spent 3.5 minutes on his back to end the round. He didn't have any submissions off his back. He wasn't very urgent to get up. And then he was getting outstruck in round 2 versus Roberson again, getting hit with some straight left hands and the southpaw body kick. Two weapons of Perez, I think, are going to come into play in this matchup. And then, lucky for him, Roberson initiated the clinch. Turman got top position again, lost top position again. I mean, he just does not have good top position. He does not have good grappling IQ, and he was able to get the takedown and get the top position in round 3, get a back take, even get a close rear naked choke, but he still couldn't even finish the rear naked choke on Roberson. So I think Roberson gave Turman every opportunity to win that fight, and he still couldn't do it. I honestly think that Roberson spent more time in top position and did the better in the grappling exchanges than Turman. So if Roberson was able to do that, I think Perez is going to outgrapple Turman easily. On the feet, I think Perez is the much more fluid and accurate striker and more powerful too. So maybe Turman surprises me and comes in here and looks more competitive on the feet. That's where I think the biggest variability in this fight is in the striking, because Perez is not like a world-class striker, and Turman could come out here and land a power strike early. He is young and fast, and his striking did look serviceable versus Roberson. I just think that Perez is better, and I think that from what I saw with Roberson's straight left hand and the left body kick, I think that that's going to be there for Perez to land, and he should outstrike Turman on the feet, should be able to take him down and possibly land a submission too. So I don't know how Perez is going to do it, but I see him finishing. He really likes finishing fights, and I'm going to go with Perez to get the finish. And I think that he is worth a bet at this price. With I mean, he opened up minus 260, and now he's all the way down to minus 115. So you're getting a great line on Perez, and I think he wins this one pretty comfortably. Next fight also takes place in the middleweight division. We have Antonio Arroyo, who is taking on Muniz. Arroyo is 9-2. Muniz is 18-4. The opening betting line for this one was Arroyo, the minus 120 favorite, to Muniz, the minus 120 favorite, and even pick 'em. And right now we are seeing Muniz minus 120, Arroyo plus 100. So open to near pick 'em right now. Muniz is a slight favorite. The first time I think I've seen that plus money next to Arroyo. Oh no, he was plus money earlier in the week, but pretty shocking line, honestly. I mean, these guys both making their UFC debut, both coming off the Tuesday Night Contender Series in their most two recent fights, and a lot of similarities in the careers of these two. Both of them fought in the Tuesday Night Contender Series last year. Both had really lackluster performances. They looked sloppy. They fought really bad opponents, and they couldn't even finish their opponents. They won decisions, but neither got a contract. Both came back the next year. Both got some submission wins, and now they both got contracts, and they're squaring off here in the UFC. I honestly think Arroyo is the more impressive of the two. He can fight from both stances. He's real light on his feet, some in and out movement. Looks like he comes from like a taekwondo background or something. Throws a lot of kicks. He's got really fast, powerful kicks, especially from the southpaw stance, and he can cut off the cage pretty well too when he's trapping his opponents to throw his kicks. He got some sloppy takedowns on his opponent in that first fight. I think it was Regman, or I don't remember who it was in his first fight, but that first fight was just so unimpressive from both of them. It's not even really worth mentioning. And then the second fight was versus Regman, and that's where he was really showing how great his kicking ability was. He got taken down off of his kicks a few times, off his leg kick and off his spinning back kick, but he was able to get back up to his feet, and then he actually got right back up to his feet and dropped Regman with a right head kick and hunted the finish and ended up getting a triangle a few minutes later. So I was impressed with Arroyo's striking and his ability to get off his back, even though he did get taken down a little bit. Now moving on to Muniz, he's a southpaw striker, and he's really looking for the grappling in this fight. I mean, he looks for takedowns in most of his fight, but I really was not impressed with his takedowns or his top pressure. I mean, his takedowns look sloppy. His top game didn't look very good, and I mean, he can snatch submissions off his back. He can use an armbar or an omoplata, a triangle, to get back up to his feet. He actually does have some decent grappling IQ, but in terms of his just physicality, I don't see him having the grappling to hold Arroyo down. Arroyo should be the bigger, stronger guy here and has shown some decent defensive grappling, and I just have not seen anything from Muniz's top game to think that he's going to be able to consistently hit takedowns, keep Arroyo on the ground, and out-grapple him. So I'm going to favor Arroyo to win this fight, to stay off his back, to keep the fight standing, where he should implement his kicking game and likely outstrike Muniz. So I think plus 100 is actually a pretty good price in this one. It's hard to get a really solid feel for these two because they are debutants. We have not seen much of them. We've only seen them in the Tuesday Night Contender Series and some regional fights. But from what I've seen of the two, I like Arroyo a lot better, and I think he actually lands the knockout blow in this one. I think he probably lands a head kick somewhere along the line after Muniz gasses out, going for takedowns, and the pick is going to be Arroyo. And I have not locked in a bet on him, but at plus 100, I will probably lock that in after this after the podcast for just probably one unit because he's a debutant, can't go too crazy. The next fight is in the lightweight division. We have Charles Oliveira, who is 27-8, taking on Jared Gordon, who is 15-3. The opening betting line for this one was Oliveira the favorite at minus 335 to Gordon the plus 245 dog. Right now we are seeing Oliveira minus 410 to Gordon plus 330. So more action coming in on Oliveira. And I think that this is a crazy, crazy line. I mean, Oliveira is a guy who is known for kind of flaking in fights before. If he does not get that early sub, that early finish, he kind of runs out of ideas and looks for ways out of fights. Sometimes he gasses out later in fights. And I mean, he's just not a very reliable fighter. And the fact that he's minus 400 over a well-rounded guy like Jared Gordon, I think is pretty crazy. And I think that there's a ton of value on Jared Gordon. That's just right off the bat. I mean, you know what you're getting from Oliveira. He's a wicked grappler. I mean, he's got the most submissions in UFC history. He's a finisher at heart, and he's actually getting his striking a lot better too. I mean, he lit up Nick Lentz in his last fight, eventually getting that knockout with that straight right hand in the second round. So Oliveira is dangerous, man. He's dangerous on the feet, and he's super dangerous on the ground. But Jared Gordon is very well rounded, as I was mentioning. He's got good boxing, good kickboxing. He's might come from a wrestling background. He can hit offensive takedowns. He can get off his back. A little bit of a worry that he had a close round 1 and round 2 with Dan Moret last fight, but I think that that was just a tough fight. Moret came out strong. He withstood the early storm and still won that fight pretty comfortably. I think one judge gave Moret round 1, but 8 of the 9 rounds that were scored went to Gordon in that one. So I just think that Oliveira just can't be trusted this much at minus 410. I mean, Oliveira fought a teammate of Gordon's, Paul Felder, not too long ago, and Paul Felder was locked in a pretty tight darce in that fight, and he was not defending well. He was not doing the right things. He was actually kind of making it easier for Oliveira to finish the darce, and Oliveira still didn't finish it. And then when Felder got his head out of the darce, Oliveira looked a little defeated. He started eating ground and pound on the bottom. He got taken down. I mean, he kind of fell down in round 2 from like an elbow. He got hit with an elbow and like took a knee. Got smashed with elbows on bottom for an absolutely brutal knockout. So, I mean, if Oliveira does not get that early finish versus Gordon here, look for him to start looking for ways out. And we have not seen it in a while. He's on a 5-fight win streak. The dude is rolling through competition. But I think Jared Gordon is a particularly tough matchup because he's a very serviceable grappler. I think that he has the better jiu-jitsu than Paul Felder, and if Paul Felder was able to defend the chokes, we're kind of MMA mathing in here, I think that Gordon will be able to defend the chokes of Oliveira. Now, Oliveira does have more dangerous submissions, rear naked chokes, guillotines, and stuff like that. I think the darce is probably one of his the darce and the anaconda are one of his lower submissions or lower percentage submissions. But even on the feet in this one, I think that it'll be really competitive. Oliveira should have a speed advantage, and Gordon is a bit hittable. But I just think Gordon can make this fight ugly. He can withstand that early storm, and he can look to finish Oliveira late or win rounds 2 and 3. So I expect Oliveira to come out strong, likely win round 1. But if he does not get that finish in round 1, I'd say Gordon should be a good live betting spot. And I think that Gordon possibly could win this fight. I'm actually going to pick him to do it as a plus 330 dog. And it seems a bit crazy, but Gordon has trains consistently with Paul Felder and with Anthony Pettis, 2 guys who have victories over Charles Oliveira. He's going to be getting that knowledge on how they beat him. He's going to get some insights into their game. And Rufus Sport is a great camp. I think they'll come into this fight prepared with Gordon, and I think Gordon pulls off the huge upset in this one, plus 330. And I think Gordon's worth the whole 1 unit bet at plus 300. I think he'll fight for your money, and even if he loses this fight, I think he looks like more of a plus 170 dog or plus 200 dog than all the way to at plus 330. So the pick is actually going to be Gordon to get this fight done. I'm going to go with the second round knockout, huge upset, come from behind victory, likely loses early, Oliveira gasses out, and Gordon gets the finish late. The next fight takes place in the light heavyweight division, the co-main event of the evening. We have Mauricio Shogun Rua, who is 26-11, taking on Paul Craig, who is 12-4. The opening betting line for this one was Shogun, the minus 215 favorite, to Paul Craig at plus 165. Right now we are seeing Shogun minus 280 to Craig at plus 240. So even more action coming in on the heavy favorite Shogun's way. And it's a bit surprising, honestly. I mean, I would not trust Shogun anywhere near that price. Shogun was supposed to take on Sam Alvey in this fight. Much different stylistic matchup than Craig. Alvey's a low-output striker, and Craig is a pretty high-intensity grappler. I mean, he not the greatest grappler by any means, not the greatest fighter, but the guy comes in, he fights hard, he never quits, never ever quits. You can beat his ass for 14 minutes and he'll still come back and submit you. So he's I mean, Craig's a great fighter to watch. I mean, this dude just fights hard. Sometimes the fights are sloppy and ugly, but I mean, he really has an incredible will, and he just refuses to lose in there sometimes. So I think that Shogun is the better fighter, technique for technique. At range, Shogun should be the better striker, should be landing hard punches on Craig, but I think Craig is going to be not giving Shogun any space. He's going to be constantly looking for those takedowns, trying to grind Shogun up against the cage, and we haven't seen Shogun defend too many takedowns. His last time that he really had a grappling heavy fight was versus Corey Anderson, all the way back in 2016. I actually had Anderson winning rounds 2 and 3 of that fight, but Shogun did a decent job stuffing some takedowns, did an okay job getting back up to his feet. When he's in space, when he's in the center of the cage, he does not defend takedowns very well. I mean, he's 30-something years old. He really can't have great wrestling base about him anymore. But when he's against the cage, he can use the cage to defend the takedowns, to get back up to his feet sometimes. And he's just a veteran of the cage. So he finds ways to defend takedowns in some crafty ways. So I think that Craig will be coming out here desperately looking for those takedowns. We'll probably be eating some hard shots at distance and in the clinch. And we could see that knockout blow land from Shogun and put Craig out, maybe land some hard hammer fist elbows or some hammer fist from top position if Craig flops to his back. But I don't see it, honestly. I see Craig pulling off another upset. I'm going with 2 upsets in a row, 2 big ones too. Craig sitting in at plus 240 here. I just don't think that Shogun will be able to keep Craig off him. He's going to be constantly latching on to Shogun, draining Shogun's arms out, and I just think that Craig has the much better cardio of the two. He's fought more actively. He's gone the full 3 rounds more recently, and I just think that his cardio is going to be better, and I don't think that Shogun's going to be able to keep up with that grappling pace. He's not going to be used to it. Shogun hasn't fought in 11 months. I mean, he's coming off of a decent victory over Pedro, but I mean, he was getting lit up with punches in that first round versus Pedro. I mean, he was taking them. He hung in there. He didn't get knocked out like he did versus Smith, but and then Pedro gassed out. Shogun landed a couple decent takedowns. He got some top position, but Pedro was just a bum of a fighter. He ended up injuring himself, and that kind of led to the finish in round 3. But Shogun is still a very competent fighter. He could win this fight and make me look stupid for picking Craig in this one, but I'm actually going to pick Craig to grind this one out, and I actually think he's going to get that round 3 finish somehow. It's going to be hard to submit Shogun, but I saw someone say this online. If Chael Sonnen can do it, then Paul Craig can do it, and I like that sentiment. So I'm gonna pick Paul Craig to get the 3rd round submission. I mean, that's what the guy does, 3rd round sub. So Craig is the pick at plus 240, and I'd say he's worth the money line value bet, no doubt. Even if you don't jump on him pre-fight, I think that Shogun could win round 1 and then gas out in rounds 2 and 3, and you could get a good price on Craig after round 2 too, or after round 1 as well. So pick us Craig to get it done. Now moving on to the main event of the evening in the light heavyweight division, we have Jan Blachowicz, who is 24-8, taking on Trinaldo-Green, who is 26-7. The opening betting line for this one was Blachowicz minus 185, Souza plus 145. Right now we are seeing Blachowicz minus 165 to Souza at plus 145. So more action coming in on the slight dog Jacare's way. It's actually 2-way action coming in on this fight. I think the early action came in on Blachowicz, but recently in the past actually 24 hours, there's been more action coming in on Souza, and I get the action coming in on Souza. He is still a very competent fighter. I mean, he's a great fighter still, even though he's getting up there in years. He came off that loss last fight to Hermansson, but even in that fight versus Hermansson, he lost rounds 1 and 2 pretty dominantly, got dropped in round 1, almost got submitted in round 1, defended well, got taken down off a leg kick in round 2, spent 4 minutes on his back, but then he came back in round 3 and he started making some adjustments, started punching into the body a little bit more, and he had success with that. He won round 3. He dropped round 4 on activity to Hermansson, then actually came back and won round 5. So the dude has some adaptability in him still. I mean, he was losing that fight pretty decisively early and then came back and made it a fight in those last 3 rounds. So respect to Jacare. He's still making improvements. I think his boxing has gotten a lot better over the past few years. Yeah, he started digging into the body a lot, which had him a lot of success, especially versus Chris Weidman. I mean, him versus Chris Weidman was a straight boxing match, a high output boxing match, and Jacare came up on top, getting that third round knockout in impressive fashion. So, just coming down to this fight, though, Jacare is moving up to 205, and we've seen how this move goes. A few guys have had success. Anthony Smith had success, and Thiago Santos had success, and we see guys who were former world champions, Chris Weidman and Luke Rockhold, who are not having success, getting knocked out by these bigger light heavyweights. So I think that Jacare was chasing that 185-pound title for his whole career. He didn't get it. He actually admitted, like, hey, if I can't beat Jack Hermanson, I think I might have to hang things up. And then he lost to Jack Hermanson, and now he's moving up to 205. So I kind of see it as a bit of a desperation move from Jacare. I mean, I hate to say it because the guy is just such an incredible fighter, Hall of Famer, no doubt. But I don't like this move for Jacare. I think he's going to be undersized, just like Rockhold and just like Weidman were. I mean, Blachowicz just fought Rockhold. And even though they were the same in size, even though they were the same height, maybe the same reach, they weighed in the same, Blachowicz was just stronger. He was used to fighting at 205. He used his size better. He defended the takedowns of Rockhold, and he was able to keep the fight standing, land some good strikes in the clinch, hurt Rockhold at the end of round 1, and then eventually knock him out with a left hook in round 2. So Blachowicz's takedown defense looked great. He looked good in the clinch versus Rockhold, and Blachowicz has struggled in the past getting taken down. He got taken down a lot by Cummins and by Alexander Gustafsson a while back and lost those fights via decision. And you're going to hear people say, hey, Blachowicz got taken down by Cummins. Of course he's going to get taken down. I mean, that was 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, he's gotten so much better since then. I mean, he was gassed out in that fight. We have not seen Blachowicz gas out since then. He actually looked incredible in round 3 versus Jimmy Manuwa. So I think that Blachowicz is the more well-rounded fighter of the two. I mean, it's close because technique for technique, they're very evenly matched. But like I was saying earlier, Blachowicz is used to fighting at 205. He's used to fighting these big boys. It's going to be a step down fighting a guy Jacare's size, and I think that Blachowicz will have more success in all realms of the fight. I think he's going to be landing the harder punches on the feet. He's going to be using his jab a little bit better. I think that as long as he can avoid getting in a pure boxing match with Jacare, I think that Blachowicz should win this fight. He's going to mix in the clinch, maybe even look to mix in an offensive takedown. I think if anybody's hitting takedowns in this fight, it's going to be Blachowicz. I don't see Souza having the wrestling advantage to take down a big old guy like Jan Blachowicz. And even if he does get taken down, Jacare was not able to submit Kelvin Gastelum with about 3 minutes of top time not too long ago, and Blachowicz's defensive grappling is a lot better than Gastelum. So I don't see Souza getting the submission on the ground. I don't see Souza getting the decision on the cards. I don't think he has a good enough output, although he could win some rounds just landing the harder punches on the feet if this one is a pure striking match. I think Souza's best path to victory is getting that knockout. I mean, if he sits down on his punches, those body punches, those overhand rights to the head like he did versus Weidman, he could be a nightmare for Blachowicz. But I honestly don't think this fight ends via finish at all. I actually think this one goes to the cards. I think that we'll see them kind of feel each other out for a little bit, show each other some respect, and then I honestly don't think that we'll ever see them really let go in this one. I don't think this will be a good fight for some reason. I mean, I love both of these guys. They're both incredible fighters, but just the way they match up, I just don't see them being an extremely exciting fight. I see it going to the scorecards. I see Blachowicz winning about 3, maybe even 4 rounds from Jacare in this one. I think that the size advantage for Blachowicz is going to be a big factor for him, and I think Blachowicz is just the much more fresher fighter at this point in their career. Jacare is kind of making this 205-pound move up 20 pounds in weight as like that last ditch effort, and I don't think it's a good move. So I'm going to pick Blachowicz to get this one done, and look out for that money to keep coming in on Souza because Blachowicz is getting near playable. I don't think I'm going to bet this main event. Maybe go some props. Maybe I saw Domenico Gabe tipping that fight starts round 3 is -120, which seems like pretty good odds. Maybe the over in this fight too. So I think this fight goes to the cards. I don't think it'll be a very exciting one, but an extremely technical match between the two. I think Blachowicz wins this one 49-46. So we flew through the fights this week, only 43 minutes. I think I had a pretty good grasp on them, and there was no need to drag things on, so we just got right to the point. And after this, we actually have a little bit of a break, the first UFC break in a long time. I think we had like 12 UFC events in a row or something insane like that. I think we're off for I want to say 3 weeks after this, which is just insane to think. I mean, the last time we had a 3-week break was January. So yep, December 7th is the next card. So no cards for no UFC cards for 3 weeks. Might do a podcast sometime in between then, but it's been about 12 episodes in 12 weeks, so it's been a hard grind. Hope you all have enjoyed each and every one of these podcasts, and hope you all enjoyed the break from the UFC the next couple weeks. Do something on your Saturday nights for a change, and thank you all for listening to this episode. Hope you all enjoy the card this weekend, and I will see you in a few weeks. Peace.